And so I've given you a handout, and the handout is a yellow handout, and it goes through all of these properties. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is just kind of follow along. Your handout is not in the exact same order, though. Okay? So the first three properties, our first four properties we're going to talk about are the properties of equality. And so the first one is the reflexive property. Basically, that just means you have one number equal to itself. And so in this case, 5 equals 5. Okay, one thing equals another thing. Or 4 plus 7 equals 4 plus 7. So when you think about reflexive, you should think about reflection. Okay, where the equal sign is like a mirror. Right? Symmetric. If one quantity equals a second quantity, then the second quantity equals the first. So for example, they have if 8 equals 2 plus 6, then 2 plus 6 equals 8. So when I think about symmetric, I think about two equal signs. Okay? And these things here in the middle have to match up. Okay. Transitive. If one quantity equals a second quantity, and a second quantity equals a third quantity, then the first quantity equals the third quantity. So if I look at this, if 6 plus 9 equals 3 plus 12, 3 plus 12 equals 15, then 6 plus 9 equals 15. So basically what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of those in the middle. Okay? Transitive means 3. So think about that. Reflexive, 1. Symmetric, 2. Transitive, 3. And substitution property. A quantity may be substituted for its equal in any expression. So, for example, if n equals 11, then 4n equals 4 times 11. So you are substituting in a value. So with that in mind, now we're going to look at the addition properties. And so you have the additive identity and the additive inverse. Those are the top two ones in your table. The additive identity basically means that if you add 0 to any number, you get the number itself. So biggest thing with additive identity is plus 0. Additive inverse, that's your negative. So any number plus its opposite will equal 0. Multiplicative identity, that's if you multiply 1 by any number. Multiplicative property by 0, that's if you multiply a number by 0, you get 0. And then last but not least is the multiplicative inverse property, which is basically when I think of multiplicative inverse, I think of reciprocals. Okay, you take a number times its reciprocal, and that gives you 1. Okay, so here we go. It says evaluate, then name the property used in each step. So there's my original problem. 7 times 4 minus 3 minus 1 plus 5 times 1/5. And so if I look at this very first thing, what did I do from the left side of the equal sign to the right side of the equal sign? So what did I do from this left side, right here, to move to the right side?
1 plus 5 times.
Yeah, so basically what I've done is I've replaced 4 minus 3 with what? 1. Okay. So now let's look at the next step. So I've got 7 times 1 minus 1 plus 5 times 1/5. What do I do from here to here? Yeah, you took 7 times 1 and got 7. So let me think, okay, which of these properties says if I take a number times 1, I get the number? Multiplicative identity. So I will let you abbreviate multiplicative and put mult and then identity. Okay? Now what have I done? Let's look at the next step. Okay? The next step, what have you done? What have I done from here to here?
You took out 5.
Yep. 5 times 1/5 gives me 1, so that's a number times its reciprocal will give me 1. Which of those properties will be? Multiplicative inverse. Okay, so multiplicative inverse. Let's look at the next one. This one to this one, what have I done? 7 minus 1 is 6. That is substitution. Because you've substituted 6 in for 7 minus 1. And what do I know? 6 plus 1 equals 7. What's that one going to be? It's going to be the exact same thing. It'll be substitution as well. Okay? All right, so let's look at our next one. I know if you're kind of struggling with these, that's okay. Okay? They aren't necessarily the easiest in the world. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. So here I go. 2 times 3 plus 8 minus 8. What have I done from this step to this step? 4 times 2. So what's that going to be, guys? Substitution. Okay. What's my next step going to be? 8 minus 8 is 0. So which on here states that a number and its opposite equals 0? Additive inverse. Let's look at the next statement. What do I do from here to here? Substitution. Now some people will refer to this as addition or as multiplication because you're multiplying. I mean it is, but if we're just referring to these properties that we have, it would be substitution. Okay, what's the last step going to be? 6 plus 0 equals 6. Additive identity, good job. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at another one. All right, here we go. So I'm going to let you walk me through this one. What will go first in that blank? Yep, so what will go first? Right here, what am I going to write? Yep, so what's the reason? How could I go from here to here? Substitution, because? So you've got your 15 divided by 3 will give you 5. Okay, that's what you've done. Let's look at the next step. What's the next step going to give you? 5 minus 5 equals 0. So this equals this. What's the reason on that? Additive inverse. Good. Next statement. What do I have? Equals. So what is that? Multiplicative inverse. Okay, what's my next statement going to be? Close. Multiplicative what? Okay, let's see what we've done. 6 times 0 is 0. You're right, it's a multiplicative property. Property of 0. There you go, good job. Okay, and what's my next one going to be? Additive identity, yep. The reason why it's not substitution is because you're using 0. That's right. Alrighty. So commutative and associative, those are the two properties on the bottom of your sheet. Commutative property, basically I think about commutative like commute. Every day you start at your home, right? And you come to school. So that's kind of like what commutative is. Home to school. And then at the end of the day, we're at school and we go home. Now if we travel that same distance, or I take that back, if we travel the same path, those two distances will be equal. Okay, so commutative means you commute home to school, school to home. There's always two things. Home to school, school to home. Associative property, on the other hand, means there are three things. So in this case, I can't do a home to school equals school to home. I actually have three properties, three terms, A, B, and C, A, B, and C. It's just how they are associated or grouped that changes. So in this first group, we have A and B together, right? In this next group, we have B and C together. And associative can also be with multiplication as well. And it doesn't matter how they're grouped, you're still going to get the same result. So let's go ahead and look at this next statement. It says, Eric makes a list of items that he needs to buy for a party and their costs. Find the total cost of these items. So what am I going to do with all those? Add them up. Okay, so let's go ahead and add 675, 14, 23, 25, and 20, 50. Okay. What do I know when I add these two together? What do I get? So I have 2075 and 2325. On this one, if I add those two together, I'm going to get 0, carry 1, 44, which is what you've already said. And then last but not least, I need to add in the $20.50, which is $64.50. Okay, so just a word problem that we need to go ahead and solve. We always have those problem-solving problems. Okay, questions? Let's go ahead. Oops, let's go back. There we go. So on pages 19 and 20, let's go ahead and turn so that we know kind of what we're doing. Okay, on page 19, this is what you need to do real quick. Now pay attention because the directions are changing a little bit. On 10, 12, and 14, that is one that you're going to have to go through each step and justify it. So follow the directions there. And I will get you started on 10 shortly. Okay, 16 is a story problem. Now let's go to 18 through 28. On 18 through 28, you do not need to name the property. Just solve. Okay, so just tell me what those answers are. No property. On 30, it's a word problem again. 32, 34, 36, exactly what the directions state. And then 38 through 46, name the property used. So on that one, you're just going to have one property on each problem. And then on 48, that's a word problem. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and get you started on number 10 to make sure that we can kind of get you going. So really, you only have 3 problems that you need to go through all the steps like what we did. So on number 10, the problem is 7 plus 9 minus 3 squared. So if I was going to go ahead and do the next step, what would be the very first thing I would do to solve this problem? 3 squared, which is 9. So this reason is substitution. Okay, so that's my very first step. Now what I'm going to do, what's my next step going to be? 7 plus 0. How do I know that 9 minus 9 is 0? Additive identity. And then what's the next statement going to be? What will be my next line be? 7. So 7 plus 0 is, whoa, that's not additive identity. What's this one going to be? Not additive identity, what is it? Additive inverse. Okay, and then what's your last statement going to be? Additive identity, yep. Make sure you don't get those screwed around. Okay. So there you go, and you're done with the problem. So you need to do that on 12 and 14. Just go through each of the steps and then just justify it. Questions?